If your business uses generative AI for anything that touches a customer, a chatbot on your website, marketing copy, a tool that drafts emails or summarizes contracts, there's a change happening in your insurance right now that almost nobody is talking about. Your general liability policy may now carry an exclusion for it. Not because you did anything wrong, not because you got a notice in big red letters. It's happening at renewal in the endorsements most business owners never read. If you don't know who I am, my name's Jim Eddington, and my agency helps individuals and businesses with their insurance every single day. We work with business owners constantly, and this is one of those shifts where the coverage moved faster than the conversation around it. So let's walk through what's actually happening and the real case that shows why it matters. Generative AI is the kind that produces something: text, an image, an answer, the chatbot that talks to your customers, the tool that writes your ad copy, the assistant that drafts a proposal. For a few years, when a business used one of these tools and something went wrong, the coverage question lived in a gray area. Your general liability policy didn't say anything about AI one way or the other. It was silent. And that silence sometimes worked in the business owner's favor. That silence is ending. Starting in January 2026, the organization behind many of the standard insurance forms carriers use made 3 new generative AI exclusions available. The broadest one can remove bodily injury, property damage, and personal and advertising injury tied to generative AI. Narrower versions target only personal and advertising injury or only products and completed operations. These exclusions are optional, and adoption is still uneven, but some carriers have begun adding the standard AI language, and some have written their own. A few have gone further, putting broad AI exclusions on professional liability and management liability policies too. So here's the practical picture. This shows up at renewal, buried in a list of endorsement forms. So the only reliable answer to whether your policy still covers AI is the wording on your actual policy. And most business owners sign the renewal without ever reading that far. Let's make this concrete because AI exclusion sounds abstract until it lands on a real claim. Picture a small marketing agency, 6 people. They use an AI tool to help write blog posts, social media, ad copy for their clients. Totally normal in 2026. Everybody's doing it. One day that tool produces a paragraph that's a little too close to somebody else's copyrighted work, or it writes something false about a competitor. A demand letter shows up. Now there's a claim, intellectual property, or defamation. Claims like defamation and some copyright claims involving an advertisement can fall under a general liability policy's personal and advertising injury coverage. That coverage was never automatic. The allegation still has to fit the policy's defined offenses and clear its other exclusions. But when the new generative AI exclusion is attached, the carrier has another basis to deny a claim that might otherwise have been covered. And the trigger language is broad. It uses the phrase arising out of. Courts often read that phrase broadly, though the exact reach depends on the state and the facts. The point is that AI may not have been the main cause of loss for the carrier to invoke the exclusion. If AI is in the claim, the carrier has an argument. Now here's the part that turns this from theory into something you can actually see. One important distinction first. This was a chatbot liability case, not an insurance coverage case. And the decision doesn't actually tell us whether Air Canada's chatbot used generative AI. But it does show the underlying problem clearly. When a business gives customers automated information and that information is wrong, the business can still be the one that's responsible. A few years back, a man named Jake Moffat needed to fly across Canada for his grandmother's funeral. He went to Air Canada's website and he used their chatbot to ask about bereavement fares, the discounted fares airlines offer for a death in the family. The chatbot told him he could book his flight now and apply for the bereavement discount retroactively within 90 days. So he did. He booked the full fare ticket, flew, and then applied for the refund. Air Canada said no, because their actual policy, the one written on a different page of their own website, said bereavement fares can't be applied for after you've already traveled. The chatbot had it wrong. So Moffat took it to a tribunal. And Air Canada's defense is the part you need to hear. The company argued it shouldn't be responsible for the information the chatbot provided. The tribunal said that position amounted to treating the chatbot like a separate legal entity responsible for its own actions. Basically, don't blame us, blame the bot. The tribunal rejected that completely. It ruled that the chatbot was part of Air Canada's website, that the company was responsible for the information it gave out, and that a customer is entitled to trust it. Air Canada had to pay. It was a small dollar amount, but the principle is enormous, and it's the whole reason this matters for your business. Now, somebody's going to say, that's Canada, that doesn't apply here, and technically, sure, a Canadian tribunal doesn't bind a court in Nevada, but here's why I'd pay attention to it anyway. Lawyers who work in this area make the point well. In the United States, we have a habit of ignoring rulings from other countries. But the legal question here isn't uniquely Canadian. Who bears responsibility when a business gives its customers automated information and the customer relies on it? So when a court or tribunal somewhere else reasons that through, that's an early signal, not a foreign curiosity. Given how exactly American businesses are deploying these tools, it's reasonable to expect this issue to be treated here on very similar facts. The question isn't whether a US customer relies on a chatbot that's wrong and sues. It's when. Air Canada gives us an early look at what that case could resemble. Here's the takeaway from that case. Using somebody else's AI tool does not automatically shield your business. When your company puts a chatbot in front of customers or publishes AI-generated content under its own name, your company can still be responsible for that communication. The vendor may share responsibility too, and your contract with that vendor may matter. But the bot did it is not a defense by itself. So put these two things side by side. A business can't assume the software company will absorb every claim that comes out of the output. And at the same time, insurers now have language available to pull some of that exposure out of the traditional policy. The risk is going up and the automatic coverage is going down. That's the squeeze. Let's name the specific exposures because they're not exotic. They're everyday business activities now. There's the error exposure. Your AI tool gives a customer wrong information, they rely on it, they lose money. That's the Air Canada situation almost exactly. There's the intellectual property and defamation exposure. Your AI generates marketing content that copies protected work or says something false and damaging about another business. And there's the data exposure. Your AI tool produces an output that exposes confidential or protected information it shouldn't have. Here's the thing though, these exposures don't all sit in the same insurance policy. A wrong answer that causes somebody a financial loss may point toward professional liability or errors and omissions. Defamation and certain advertising-related copyright claims may touch general liability or media liability. Confidential data exposure usually points towards cyber or privacy coverage. The new general liability exclusions add another potential gap, but the coverage picture was already split across several policies. That's why this review has to cover your whole insurance program, not just one policy. So what's the move? This isn't a reason to panic, and it's definitely not a reason to stop using AI. It's a reason to look. The first step is the simplest. Pull your general liability policy or have your agent do it and check the endorsement schedule, the list of forms attached to your declarations page for any new AI exclusion. Then look at your professional liability, your cyber, and your management liability coverage too, wherever those apply to your business. The coverage is spread across the program, so the review has to be as well. The second step is the conversation about filling the gap. The market saw this coming, and there are now affirmative AI coverage options, meaning policies built specifically to cover the AI exposure the standard forms are pushing out. Some are standalone policies. Some are designed for small and mid-sized businesses specifically, the kind using AI for marketing and customer service. This is newer specialized coverage, the kind of thing an independent agency reaches for through specialty markets, not a box you check on a basic policy, which is honestly the whole point of working with an independent agency. We shop multiple carriers and we have access to markets a single captive office doesn't. So when the standard policy develops a gap like this, we're not stuck. I want to be straight with you about where this stands though. This is genuinely new. The exclusions are spreading, the affirmative products are still settling into the market, And not every business needs a standalone AI policy tomorrow. What every business that uses AI does need is the conversation. Find out whether your current coverage still responds and decide from there. The worst version of this is the business owner who assumes they're covered, gets the demand letter, files the claim, and finds out at that moment that the exclusion was added at the last renewal and nobody noticed it. So here's where I'd leave it. If your business uses AI in any way a customer sees or relies on, ask the question now and ask it again at every renewal. Is there an AI exclusion on my policy? And if there is, what are my options to cover the gap? That's a quick review, and it's a lot cheaper than finding out the hard way. If you want us to take a look at your coverage, the quote link is below. We're an independent agency based here in Nevada, and we help business owners in Arizona, Utah, and California too. And if this is the kind of thing you want to understand before you need it, subscribe to the channel. We publish most business days, and what we cover is for individuals, families, and business owners who want to understand their insurance before they need it, not after. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.